open war between the government and Twitter. Twitter issues a statement saying the safety of their employees is a total priority, a top priority, at a time where they have refused to restore more than 250 accounts that they had suspended after a demand from the government. The tweets linked to farmer violence, Twitter felt, were not a violation of its policy. The government, on the other hand, does have the power of the law. Will they take action? Joining us to look at this, Apar Gupta is a lawyer and executive director of the Internet Freedom Foundation. Dr. Sameer Dalwai, the NCP spokesperson, Shreya Singhal, an advocate, and Rajat Sethi joins us as well. Rajat, do you believe that it's just a matter of time before the government has to take action, since Twitter continues to believe that it will not restore those 250 accounts?
Vishnu, so far Twitter has behaved as if it is the super government, and in most of the cases has been the judge, jury, and the executioner. It has been, claiming that its policies stand in certain cases and doesn't work in some other cases, purely by their own idiosyncrasies. Somebody should step in enforcing the law of the land, and I think the government is well within its right to control what is seemingly going to be a single biggest threat to free and fair democracy and its practices. So I think big tech has to be reined in. This incident might just be the right flare-up for the government to rein in and put in place the rule of law, wherein Twitter can't just walk out from its responsibility by claiming that their employees and their apparently this threat on their employees' life is paramount, which seems pretty bogus to me.
Shreya, wouldn't it be disastrous that you've got potentially Twitter India employees locked away? Twitter is such an important part of the life of millions in this country.
I think it's not just Twitter. The thing is that Twitter over here seems to be the first in the line. And I strongly disagree with what Mr. Sethi has said, because the government does the same with its supporters. You have so many people who have been, who have propagated hate speech in the past, especially with what happened in Delhi last year, and no action has been taken against them. So for the government also to take this kind of very biased view against its own citizens and charge them with draconian provisions like sedition, and next I'm pretty sure there will be UAPA. It is absolutely shocking. The government is holding its citizenry, it's blackmailing its citizenry into submission, into silence, because they don't like what people are saying. They don't like the dissent. They want to control the entire narrative. That is not a democracy.
Rajat, isn't this a problem that on the one hand, the government wants to put out a particular narrative? There are Twitter trolls galore on what people tweet, and on the other hand, you believe that expression is okay, or the government believes that expression, some of it is okay. But on the other hand, you want to block out the voices of those who may disagree, sometimes very strongly, with the government.
Well, Vishnu, we have all seen a very clear-cut stand from Jack about its left communist bias. So that's a matter of fact, A. B, we also need to keep in mind...
But what's wrong with that? Sorry to interrupt, but what's wrong with...
Absolutely nothing wrong.
I mean, he
likes
certain comments, right? He likes certain comments. That is his prerogative. Are you suggesting that he's part of a conspiracy by farmers?
Allow me to finish.
Go ahead, sorry.
You asked me a question. It's a very important question, Vishnu. What has happened in the previous few years, what we have seen is that one specific ideology, which has been obliterated, has been completely outdated, has crept its way into the corporate boardrooms and is trying to push through their set of ideas through those boardrooms. And this is where I personally feel that Jack and certain set of employees in the Silicon Valley are trying to peddle one specific set of agenda. There have been ample complaints from the other set of ideas, which people saying that there has been shadow banning and all of that. The moot point here is one day's incident, which has been largely, a lot of commentators has compared it with the Capitol insurrection, which happened in Washington, D.C. It is very similar set of and scale of events that happened and unfolded in India. And we're talking about that specific day and the kind of people who were involved in peddling lies, hatred, and talking about genocide, which can further create law and order mayhem in the country.
Okay, so a couple
Certain
of important
people
points.
have to be fixed. It's a
Sure.
very, very specific context.
Sure. Dr. Dalwai, he's made a couple of points. answer the first part of what Rajat has said, that there is a certain ideology apparently which even the Twitter boss subscribes to. Now, he didn't say it, but perhaps Rajat was suggesting what communist, leftist, pseudo-secular, secular, God knows, what have you. But certainly not an ideology that he subscribes to.
Pseudo-nationalists. Yeah.
So
absolutely,
some sort of ideological leaning, not defined, is what is made the Twitter boss take a particular set of comments.
No, I mean, I would think it is comic if it wasn't so tragic, because if you are opposed to an ideology, because you have an opposite ideology, it's entirely your democratic right. This word might sound alien for the last few years, but it's entirely your democratic right to oppose an ideology, even if it is left or whatever else you don't approve of. But you oppose it democratically by speaking about it or speaking against it, not by blocking it. Because by blocking it, you subscribe to an ideology which wants to cut out all other ideologies, and that's the absolute opposite of democracy. That's as simple as that. And I completely agree with what the lady said, Advocate Shreya Singhal. So I don't want to repeat it, but I completely agree with what she said. And that's my answer to his ideology bias. There's no harm in having an ideology, whether left, right or center, which also happens to be the name of this show. But you oppose somebody's ideology by doing things better than them, by speaking against it or demonstrating against it, not by blocking them out. When you block them out, you show that your ideology is weaker and worse than that ideology.
No, but isn't there, Dr. Dalwai, a double standard in what you're saying? And the reason I ask is that you want an investigation into those celebrities, sports stars and others who tweeted in favor of the government, apparently because you felt they were under some sort of pressure. So in a sense, you're pressurizing them by saying, I want to investigate who has said this to them. If it is their own birthright to be tweeting what they want, then what is wrong with what they say? Just as you criticize the center for questioning certain tweets, aren't you doing the same thing? Different side of the coin.
Mr. Vishnu, I repeat what you said. It is their birthright to tweet what they wish. The point here is, I have and all of you who have Twitter can actually right now go to your Twitter account and look at the account of a certain gentleman, Mr. Anurag Srivastava, who happens to be the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs of India. Yes. Here it is, in front of you.
Yes.
Okay, when you go to he has tweeted at 12:05 something against what Rihanna posted.
Correct.
I'm tempted to say chronology samajhiye. I'm tempted to say that. 12:07, 12:05 he tweets. Then I have another photograph here of Akshay Kumar, who replies to Anurag Srivastava's tweet at 2:07 p.m. Nothing wrong with that, except Akshay Kumar is not following this gentleman Anurag Srivastava.
So
the only way you can understand, you can know somebody else what he has posted is if you are following, you will get a notification.
No, not necessarily.
If you are not,
this gentleman doesn't even know what Twitter is.
Hello, Rajat, relax,
relax,
Rajat, take it easy. Relax, you'll get your chance. If you are not following somebody and you don't get a notification, how would you know that somebody has posted something within 2 hours? An international celebrity like Akshay Kumar, I'm sure he has a team.
No, but that's a bit of leap of faith, because Dr. Dalwai, most respectfully, that's not how Twitter works. I often retweet what other people say who I don't follow. That's just the way it works.
Let me complete. I am not against Twitter. I am against how is it that so many people at one particular time, for 70 days farmers are protesting. They don't say a word about it. Suddenly there is a celebrity, international celebrity who tweets something. Then there is the particular gentleman from the Ministry of External Affairs who tweets something. Within 2 hours, somebody who's not even following him. So are you
suggesting all these people have been under pressure? They've been told you either retweet or you had it. Is that what you're suggesting?
Within a few minutes, people almost cut, copy, paste the same words and retweet. One of the gentlemen also retweets posting a party member from Mumbai, a vice president. Isn't it suspicious? I mean, what would you think?
Okay, I want to go across to Apar, who's been waiting. Apar has been waiting patiently.
Investigated.
Okay, Dr. Dalwai, 1 second, and I want to come back to my other panelists, but Apar has been waiting. And I want to ask him a couple of points on the law over here. Now, Twitter in their latest statement have said, we strongly believe that the open and free exchange of information has a positive global impact and that the tweets must continue to flow. They have also stated that the tweets the government wanted removed, which they have now gotten back, do not violate their standards. So between Twitter and its belief in freedom of speech and its own standards and what India, as per the law, believes in, there is a chasm. That's a fact. So in a situation like this, is Twitter bound to act, yes or no?
Twitter, as per the existing legal provisions which exist under the Information Technology Act, is risking criminal prosecution, which can then lead to a process in they're found guilty, resulting in imprisonment for a period of about 7 years. So it does come with a criminal penalty, and why are they braving it out then becomes a natural subsequent question to it. I think it flows that the initial direction which was made on 31st of January or on 1st, and we don't know the date because the order is secret. The order has never been made public. There's not even a press release as was done under the same provision and power as was done in the case of the ban on the Chinese applications.
Right.
So there's complete secrecy which is existing. All we have is this statement, Vishnu, you have read out, and the off-record comments which are being given to reporters every day who are following this story. So essentially, the accounts were suspended for some period of time and then they were reinstated. So it's not only about tweets specifically, it's about user accounts. Secondly, the user accounts which were initially suspended were reportedly, as per these statements and reporting, related to a hashtag. And there was a degree of irrationality there because Mr. Shashi Shekhar's account, who is at the Prasar Bharati, was also suspended.
Yeah, that's right.
And supporting the government, actually. So secrecy is actually feeding into that. It also resulted in a suspension of Caravan's account, which is a press publication. Irrespective of its politics, these are account suspensions rather than individual tweets. There's a degree of irrationality and factual inaccuracy. So does Twitter have the legal basis of resisting this demand initially, which was made on 31st and 1st with respect to 250 accounts? I would say yes. But is this the perfect outcome of this entire controversy? I would say no. Twitter is a private corporation. It should not be making these defenses. It's an imperfect stakeholder in this process. Ultimately, the end users of these accounts, which include Shashi Shekhar or Caravan Magazine, need to be given show cause notices, opportunity of hearing, and the eventual direction needs to be made public, because the injury is a two-side injury.
Sure.
Firstly, for
those
the
are important points.
Who posts the content, and secondly, for us, the general public, who receive the information. This links to our fundamental rights.
All right.
We'll end it right here.
Shreya, you know, since you went to the Supreme Court and the order was passed in 2015, and you actually went to the Supreme Court at a time when there were a multitude of cases against, you know, social media sites like Twitter, Facebook, and the others, and the government could actually demand action without the paperwork. It was only after your case that the Supreme Court read down what exactly was allowed and what was not allowed. But do you believe we are essentially back to square one, that there may be paperwork now, but the number of cases against individuals or corporations or groups on Twitter pushed out by the government of India is deeply problematic?
It is extremely problematic, and I just want to say that there's an eerie similarity with what happened in 2012, which led me to filing this case, where one of the girls in Palghar had liked a comment and she was arrested for just liking that comment under Section 66A. So today it may be Jack Dorsey who's under the scanner, but tomorrow it's going to be someone who's not going to have this kind of protection or this kind of outrage. And that's the point. The point is you're not protecting the right of celebrities or you know, people who are well known. You're protecting the right of the common man. And the fact that these people who are popular on social media and they have a greater reach, the fact that you are going to go and target their accounts also shows the kind of, I mean, it's a very sanctimonious approach that the government has decided to take, because the government does exactly the same in today's day and age.
Okay.
And I also feel that there is, you know, it's a double standard. You're holding your entire citizenry to a completely different and unenforceable standard, not following due process of law and flouting everything where it suits you.
All right.
And that can't happen.
Rajat, one last question. You know, Shreya was talking about double standards and she was speaking about the law as well. But in the global sense, What does it say about Twitter users, so many of them in our country, when someone like Meena Harris is threatened for her views, when people put bile against international people who they disagree with, threaten them, want to attack them certainly with their language, with their words, not just one odd freak, but any number of people. What does it say about our ability to handle Twitter?
Well, it's a larger sociological question. I mean, I am coming on NDTV, and the kind of bile that I'm going to get post this show on Twitter, you can yourself see it. See, people across ideologies have failed to, come to terms that people can have different views. Yes. There needs to be a sense of acceptance of alternate set of ideas, and this has to also come in from Twitter, which should have been a neutral platform. But you see their CEO openly peddling one specific ideology, and that doesn't stand to his personal set of choices. No, that's what I'm saying. Please allow me to finish, Vishnu. This doesn't stand only to his personal set of beliefs. It actually transcends and reaches these corporate boardrooms. It further goes down and trickles down to individual offices who are taking decisions.
Okay, I'm out of time. Sameer, respond to that last point. Whatever the Twitter boss says percolates down to his organization, everybody else has to follow that, and therefore Twitter stands for that. Respond to that quickly, 30 seconds.
What it means is that whatever the head of a particular government says, all channels and all media has to pander to that. Then it's okay. If it doesn't pander to that, then it's not okay. So if some channel completely panders to what the government wants to say, it's fine. If it's not, you yourself know what happens. And the other point is, there was a journalist, very reputed lady, who was murdered in a gruesome way. And there were people who tweeted bile, as we mentioned, in support of the murder. And this has happened many times. People have been threatened with rape and murder. And these people are followed on Twitter by none other than the head of the government of this country.
All right, we're going to wrap this up now. I don't want to get this into a bigger argument. That's something that often comes up. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. This Twitter debate isn't going anywhere. Time for a short break. Do stay tuned.